Donald Trump doesn't know what to do about that. And we've seen him sort of shrivel under this because she could take the fight to him. As she says, she's a prosecutor, he's a felon. So he's definitely caught flat-footed on this and looks nervous and has, lost his mojo, which is mostly phony anyway.
Now, let's turn our attention to politics across the Atlantic. Kamala Harris will be the Democratic Party's presidential candidate after she secured the support of enough delegates to confirm her as the first woman of colour to run for the White House. James Harrison, chair of the Democratic National Committee, confirmed yesterday that the vice president would be the party's candidate to take on Donald Trump, the Republican nominee, though the official roll call ends tomorrow. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has announced on Truth Social that he will be debating Harris on the 4th of September. Let's talk to Cheri Jacobus, a Republican strategist and former congressional staffer who left the Republican Party under Donald Trump's leadership. Good afternoon to you, Cheri.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, good to have you with us. There's no doubt that Kamala Harris has energized the Democratic campaign. What do you think it does to the Republican campaign under Donald Trump and JD Vance?
Well, Donald Trump has been caught flat-footed. JD Vance has proven to be a bit of a dud of a candidate, a poor choice for Trump, and is hurting the ticket. It's hard to believe that you can hurt the ticket any more than Donald Trump does. But Donald Trump is used to controlling the narrative. He's used to being in the media all the time, controlling the media, controlling TV, getting the clicks and ratings. One of the reasons he became president in the first place is because media propped him up because he was so good for ratings, because he's so outrageous and so negative and so shocking. So now we have a very positive message, a positive person with Kamala Harris, who out of the gate was very strong and is controlling the narrative and is leading in the media. Donald Trump doesn't know what to do about that. And we've seen him sort of shrivel under this because she could take the fight to him. As she says, she's a prosecutor, he's a felon. So he's definitely caught flat-footed on this and looks nervous and has lost his mojo, which is mostly phony anyway. So it's interesting to watch, and it's a very positive turn for Democrats.
Do you think it's been a mistake for Donald Trump to attack Kamala Harris personally, in particular those comments about her ethnic background, questioning why she was identifying as black? She's, of course, of mixed Caribbean and Indian background, and describing her as useless and various other fairly insulting phrases that he's using. That may work with his base. Do you think that it could switch off other voters?
It's obviously going to switch off other voters. He doesn't have a plan B. This is all he knows. He can't attack her on her record. He can't attack her on her competency. He really can't attack her on anything but this. And as you noted, it appeals to his base, his very racist base. And you cannot win elections with just your base. He did this with Barack Obama. Remember, he was the original birther, questioning where Barack Obama was born, and that was racist. So this is really all Donald Trump knows how to do. It's not acceptable. It's not going over well, particularly when he also laces it with sexism. We've seen this before from him. Remember, there is a reason why Donald Trump has never won the popular vote in the United States. He can win the Electoral College with some fancy footwork and maybe some input from Vladimir Putin. But his message is not a winning message. His message is not for the majority of Americans. It doesn't work. And when you look at the fact that his vice presidential pick has a wife who is also biracial, it's kind of nuts that he would even choose to go there, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think he's just kind of lost, to be honest.
And I'm looking at a story in today's Times that says that election is becoming a battle of the sexes, with polling showing a gender gap growing between Kamala Harris. She is ahead amongst women by 51 votes to 40, but Trump is even more dominant with an 18-point lead amongst men. So if you look at it like that, what does it tell us about where this presidential race is going to go? It's still going to be incredibly close, isn't it?
Well, we always knew it was going to be close just because no matter who is the candidate, there are certain fundamentals that don't change that much, unfortunately. There are the close elections are won or lost in the margins. And the margins here, I think, are going to be when people are reminded that Donald Trump is a criminal. He has been convicted on 34 counts. He is awaiting sentencing. There are some legal issues that he's been able to basically hide by cheating, but with his own handpicked judges who are not very good judges and through the Supreme Court. And it's really a scandal. And it seems to be the only way that he is able to survive. But what we have now are a number of things that we know now that are true now that we didn't have in 2016 and 2020. That's going to affect some persuadable voters, independents, some soft Republicans. We didn't have the insurrection then. We didn't know that he had tried to extort Ukrainian President Zelensky. We didn't have the rape charge and the defamation.
Yeah.
We didn't have the business fraud. So all of these things now will affect some voters in the margins, and that's how you win a close election.
And in a close election, we know that it all comes down to some of those key swing states, places like Pennsylvania, Arizona, and so on. And there has been some concern within the Democratic movement and strategists saying that perhaps Kamala Harris, as a woman of color, may not necessarily attract those white working class voters that she needs if she's going to win those states.
Well, she would have to be taking votes away that Trump got before, and that's always a challenge. So it'll be, I think, on both sides. On the Trump side, it's a base turnout. He's not going to attract new voters. She can. She's also energizing young voters and people of color and people who otherwise may not have been interested in this election if they didn't like both choices, if they were a little bit bored. But she is exciting. She's young. She's new. She's making history, and she is extremely competent. She's been extremely strong on the stump, taking the fight to Trump and reminding people why they don't like him, why they don't trust him. So, is she going to get those hardcore MAGA voters? No, but they are not the majority. And so that's where she has a lot more new voters, new votes to get that she has access to than Trump does. Trump is not going to
Yeah.
win over new voters.
Just a couple of other quick points I wanted to put to you, and we're quite short of time. What do you make of the rumors that he's having second thoughts, Donald Trump, about picking JD Vance as his deputy? Could he still boot him out of that position?
I think he still could. He could go to him and say, "We're going to have you step aside for personal reasons. This is what you're going to say." But it would hurt him as well. He did not vet JD Vance, obviously. His sons wanted JD Vance. We've got, some of the tech billionaires who were backing him, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. But Elon Musk, remember, he said he was going to be giving the Trump campaign, he was going to be spending $45 million a month between now and the election to help Donald Trump. He has now pulled back on that. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of people who are excited about JD Vance. He's bad on the stump. He's got this awkward stuff about the couch and some things that he wrote in his book. He's just not
Yeah.
really hitting with any audiences. So yeah, he was probably a mistake.
And just finally, as a Republican who's clearly not impressed by Donald Trump or JD Vance, I mean, what do you do? Do you vote for the Democrats? Do you vote for Kamala Harris as president?
Well, I'm not a Republican. I left the Republican Party the day after they nominated Trump in 2016. I didn't even wait to see if he won. I assumed that he wouldn't, but I knew that the party had changed forever. I think that you're going to have Republicans who, as I noted, there are these about six things that are true now that we know now that were not true, that we didn't know in 2020 or 2016. That's going to affect these people. These were the Nikki Haley voters, and they are not going to vote for Trump just because Nikki Haley says that she will. Remember, you've got Donald Trump's own vice president, Mike Pence, who didn't endorse him. 40 of the 44 Trump cabinet members said they will not endorse or vote for Trump. So you have to look at them as representing a certain segment of the sane Republican Party, the people who are not part of that MAGA cult, the people who pay attention to things. They either won't vote or they'll vote for third party or they will vote for Kamala Harris.
Fascinating. Cheri Jacobus, Republican strategist, former Republican staffer. Really good to speak to you. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.